What I'd like to do in these next couple series of videos is what was most helpful for me as I was trying to wrap my mind around this for the first time, as somebody who'd done a lot of programming, but who this environment was so different and new relative to anything else that I'd done. What was helpful for me was to see a normal, quote, app converted into MVC. And so that's going to be my goal as I try and go through this to help you understand that process. And so we currently start with this. This is the empty app again. If we look at the template app, then this is what's there. And so there's a lot different in the program file. There's these different folders and everything, and I just needed to understand how did it all come together. And so let's take a look at that. I'm going to focus on this empty app for now. And if we run this, we already saw this actually. It prints out for us hello world. It's saving us the trouble of even having to do that ourselves. And obviously, if I change this hello world to be something else, so if I say testing here, then and run this, then it's going to pop up this little thing that says testing. Okay, well, that's not, I mean, this map get helpful, like, is this helpful to me? Does that help me do anything? And so what I want to see is if I can get just a regular old HTML file that I'd expect on any web page to show up. And so I'm going to go over to the project here. I'm going to right click and add. And one of my options as I add some items is to say new item. And then here where it says, just do I want to add a class, I'm going to say actually show us all the templates. So we're going to click on the show all templates button. If you don't have it, you may have already clicked on it. And in here then it gives us a whole bunch of different options for different files that I can create. I just want to create an HTML page, just a regular old HTML page. I want it to be the main page, and so I'll call it index.html, and I'll add that to the screen. This is more of what I'm used to, and so I'm just going to go ahead and put a title on here and say, is this working? And then in the body somewhere, I'll just say, H1, testing, 1, 2, 3. All right, so I'm going to save that, and I'm going to try running this again to see if it'll pull up my index page. Close that window because it's driving me nuts. And I still see that other testing. This wasn't my message. I'm not getting any of that other stuff. Okay, so this obviously didn't work, and it's not going to work. ASP.NET pages, the ASP stands for active server pages. These pages are being constructed on the fly typically. And if we want these pages to not be the ones that are constructed on the fly, like this is a static web page. It'll show up as the same thing every time. It's just a file actually that sits on the server, and when we call that web page, it downloads that file to the client's machine and runs it in the web browser. And so this file, index.html, gets downloaded to the client's machine, and it's run from the client's machine. And so if I want to have this ability, if I want to use static files, I'm going to come back to my program.cs class. I just dragged this tab over so it's my first one, so I can keep this organized a little bit. I'm going to replace this map get testing, and instead I'm going to put in, now some of this stuff I'm just going to have to do, and then I'll explain later as we get more knowledge about the topic. But I'm just going to say here app. Now what is the app? App is a var. It's an object that's being set up called app, and that's equal to a builder.build. Well, what's a builder? A builder is an instance of this web application create builder args. And so again, this is not anything I'm going to have you worry about in this moment, but the app is building this web application, and if I click on this dot next to app, it's going to give me a whole bunch of different options. Well, one of those options is going to be to use static files, and I want to use static files like index.html in my app. All right, so let's go ahead and save that and try running it. And now I don't get anything. This was worse than the hello world or the testing or anything else. I'm getting nothing now. And once again, this comes back to this principle. The web pages that are going to be generated by our .NET application are being generated dynamically. And so these files that are behind the scenes, like program CS, we don't want the user to be able to say, go to this website /program CS and download it, like we do with the index.html. Index.html, we do want them to download. And so how do we have this distinction? How do we know, can they just jump into our program and type in the name of the website /index.html? Well, that's fine, but we don't want them to be able to type /program CS and download our code. That would be an insecure way of doing things. An unsecure. Insecure is a whole different thing, the way I feel sometimes doing these videos. So anyway, so what I'm going to do, if I hover over this use static files and just look at this information, it says enable static file serving for the current request path. Files are served from the path specified, which defaults, a bunch of stuff that we want to understand, which defaults to the www root subfolder. In .NET, there is a subfolder here, or should be, that if we're doing static files, that is going to be the folder that is publicly accessible to anybody who wants to access the files that are in that folder. And so again, what's the name of the folder? If I hover over this, it says out here to the side, www root subfolder. And so I'm going to go into my project. I'm going to right click on the name of the project and say add a folder, and the folder name is going to be www root. Now when I hit enter on this, I want you to watch what happens with the little icon, because this is something that is emblematic of .NET in general. When I hit this enter key, it's going to change it from a folder to something else. And what it does is it says, oh, you named this www root. I know exactly what this is because of the way we've named it. This is our first little example of coding by convention. So because we've named this www root, it means something to .NET. And it's saying, oh yeah, that's the folder where things are publicly accessible. So now if I take my index.html file and I drag it up and drop it into my www root folder, it's going to say, hey, this might take a long time. It's not going to. And I find never a problem before moving files to a new location. You don't have to do that, but I'm going to say okay on that. It's going to move the index.html file into the www root folder. And now when I run my app, at first nothing's going to come up, but if I put here /index.html, we get our is this working and our testing 1 2 3. And so it can now access that file because it's in the publicly accessible www root folder. And that's where we're going to put all of our files that we're going to have the user download. Files that are being generated by .NET don't need to go in here. We'll generate those, we'll pass them down, but anything that they can kind of access directly on the client, we want in this www root folder. And so anyway, that works for that. And so it's kind of annoying though, every time I go there that I need to type in my /index.html. Isn't it supposed to go there by default? And so sure enough, if I add in this statement in my program CS file, if I say app.use default files, then one of the things this will do is use that index.html file as the default file, and then I won't need to type in anymore that /index.html. All right, we will explore further in the next video. Spencer out.